I can be free of suffering today. 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 Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Willie from the Ozarks, and we're ready for lesson 340 in A Course in Miracles workbook for students here on December the 6th lesson of 2022. I can be free of suffering today. And the prayer says, Father, I thank you for today and for the freedom I am certain it will bring. This day is holy, for today your Son will be redeemed. His suffering is done, for he will hear your voice directing him to find Christ's vision through forgiveness and be free forever from all suffering. Thanks for today, my Father. I was born into this world but to achieve this day and what it holds in joy and freedom for your Holy Son and for the world he made, which is released along with him today. I can be free of suffering today. Be glad today, be glad. Be glad today, be glad. There is no room for anything but joy and thanks today. There is no room for anything but joy and thanks today. Our Father has redeemed his Son this day. Not one of us but will be saved today. Not one who will remain in fear, and none the Father will not gather to himself, awake in heaven, in the heart of love. I can be free of suffering today. Wow, let's enter into this day of freedom from suffering. I can be free of suffering today. All right, let's take a look in our Manual for Teachers reading for today. And we are ready for, let's see if I can find it. Number what? Can God be reached directly is what it is, I do believe. Well, where in the world is it? We did reincarnation is true, and our psychic powers. Oh, here it is. Okay. Our psychic powers desirable yesterday, and today, can God be reached directly? God indeed can be reached directly, for there is no distance between him and his Son. His awareness is in everyone's memory, and his word is written on everyone's heart. Yet this awareness and this memory can arise across the threshold of the unconscious only where all barriers to truth have been removed. Listen to that. Yet this awareness and this memory can arise across the threshold of the unconscious only where all barriers to truth have been removed. And what's our big barrier we're recognizing? Well, of course, unforgiveness, judgment. The thinking that you can use attack to get something that you want, or anger. Those are barriers that you have to go beyond. Yet this awareness and this memory can arise across the threshold of the unconscious only where all barriers to truth have been removed. In how many is this the case? Here then is the role of God's teachers. They too have not attained the necessary understanding as yet, but they have joined with others. This is what sets them apart from the world, and it is this that enables others to leave the world with them. Alone they are nothing, but in their joining, is the power of God. Seeing our oneness with each other. Paragraph 2, there are those who have reached God directly, retaining no trace of worldly limits and remembering their own identity perfectly. These might be called the teachers of teachers, because although they are no longer visible, their image can yet be called upon, and they will appear when and where it is helpful for them to do so. To those to whom such appearances would be frightening, they give their ideas. No one can call on them in vain, nor is there anyone of whom they are unaware. All needs are known to them, and all mistakes are recognized and overlooked by them. The time will come when this is understood. And meanwhile they give all their gifts to the teachers of God who look to them for help, asking all things in their name and in no other. 3. Sometimes a teacher of God may have a brief experience of direct union with God. In this world it is almost impossible that this endure. It can perhaps be won after much devotion and dedication, and then be maintained for most of the time on earth. But this is so rare that it cannot be considered a realistic goal. If it happens, so be it. If it does not happen, so be it as well. All worldly states must be illusory. All worldly states must be illusory. If God were reached directly in sustained awareness, the body would not be long maintained. Those who have laid the body down merely to extend their helpfulness to those remaining behind are few indeed. And they need helpers who are still in bondage and still asleep, so that by their awakening can God's voice be heard. I think that's kind of where I'm at, trying to wake up from my sleep, be freed from my bondage, the bondage of anger and being upset and discouraged, disappointment, using forgiveness, seeing things, asking for help, seeing the world through the vision of Christ. And the last paragraph under Can God Be Reached Directly? Do not despair then because of limitations. It is your function to escape from them, but not to be without them. If you would be heard by those who suffer, you must speak their language. If you would be saviors, you must understand what needs to be escaped. Salvation is not theoretical. Behold the problem, ask for the answer, and then accept it when it comes. Nor will its coming be long delayed. All the help you can accept will be provided, and not one need you have will not be met. Let us not then be too concerned with goals for which we are not ready. God takes you where you are and welcomes you. God takes you where you are, regardless of what you've done, and welcomes you. What more could you desire when this is all you need? Okay, now we're going to go back and take a look at our associated reading with today's lesson, I Can Be Free of Suffering Today. But before we do, let me tell you a little bit more about an elderberry. And I went out to my elderberry. It's a native elderberry. And look at that. It's still got some green leaves that weren't completely disrupted by the frost here in December already. So I just wanted to show you what an elderberry actually looks like. See if I can stand it back up here like I had it. And I've had that all set up there so nicely, and now we can't get it to stand up. Okay, anyway, so you can see the elderberry. An elderberry. Let's look. They're out of edible landscaping. They talk about the Adam's elderberries. They have several elderberries. Adam's elderberry. Adam's is a native elderberry. Very juicy berries. Excellent for elixirs, pies, syrups, wines, etc. Late ripening and a heavy producer. Pollinates with other native elderberries. Very large flower heads, height 6 to 12 feet, and mine's probably about 8 foot tall. I couldn't really, it wasn't going to make a nice place to show it to you, so I decided to just come to where I normally sit and took a branch off of it. Height 6 to 12 foot, space 10-foot circles, zone 3 through 9. So really well here in the Ozarks. Zone 3 through 9 for the Adam's elderberry by ediblelandscaping.com. And let me just tell you something I found on webmd.com about elderberry. The berries and flowers of elderberry are packed with antioxidants and vitamins that may boost your immune system. You always think of immune booster, at least I do with elderberry. They could help tame inflammation, lessen stress, and help protect your heart too. Some experts recommend elderberry to help prevent and ease cold and flu symptoms. So there's your elderberry. Okay, I can be free of suffering today. What is the ego? The ego is idolatry, the sign of limited and separated self. Born in a body, doomed to suffer and to end its life in death. It is the will that sees the will of God as enemy and takes a form in which it is denied. The ego is the proof that strength is weak and love is fearful. Life is really death, and what opposes God alone is true. The ego is insane. In fear it stands beyond the everywhere, apart from all, in separation from the infinite. In its insanity, it thinks it has become a victor over God himself, and in its terrible autonomy, it sees the will of God has been destroyed. It dreams of punishment and trembles at the figures in its dreams, its enemies who seek to murder it before it can ensure its safety by attacking them. The Son of God is egoless. What can he know of madness and the death of God when he abides in him? What can he know of sorrow and of suffering when he lives in eternal joy? What can he know of fear and punishment, of sin and guilt, of hatred and attack, when all there is surrounding him is everlasting peace, forever conflict-free and undisturbed, in deepest silence and tranquility? To know reality is not to see the ego and its thoughts, its works, its acts, its laws, and its beliefs, its dreams, its hopes, its plans for its salvation, and the cost belief in it entails. In suffering, the price for faith in it is so immense that crucifixion of the Son of God is offered daily at its darkened shrine, and blood must flow before the altar where its sickly followers prepare to die. Yet will one lily of forgiveness change the darkness into light, the altar to illusions, to the shrine of life itself. And peace will be restored forever to the holy minds, which God created as his Son, his dwelling place, his joy, his love, completely his, completely one with him. And our lesson once again, I can be free of suffering today. Father, I thank you for today and for the freedom I am certain it will bring. This day is holy, for today your Son will be redeemed. His suffering is done, for he will hear your voice directing him to find Christ's vision through forgiveness and be free forever from all suffering. Thanks for today, my Father. I was born into this world but to achieve this day, and what it holds in joy and freedom for your Holy Son and for the world He made, which is released along with Him today. I can be free of suffering today. Be glad today. Be glad. There is no room for anything but joy and thanks today. Our Father has redeemed His Son this day. Not one of us but will be saved today. Not one who will remain in fear, and none the Father will not gather to Himself, awake in heaven, in the heart of love. I can be free of suffering today. I can be free of suffering today. And I'm all hoping that you all will take the time to do your meditations, even if it's just for a minute or two. Do those quiet times. I try to do these little songs. They're kind of what I do. They're maybe a little corny, but you know what? They're kind of help me just to enter into the presence. And be sure to do your hourly remembrances. I can be free of suffering today. 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 I can be free of suffering today.